Hello everybody, welcome back to another Python coding tutorial. In this Python coding practice, we're going to calculate the growing size of a population and practice using a for loop and making a table. So I have the instructions typed out over here for this program, so I'm going to read those so that we know what we need to do when we're writing the program. Okay, those say to create a program that will predict the growing size of a population of organisms. You will ask the user to input the starting number of organisms, the percent increase per day, and the total number of days. Then you will report the results in a table which shows the number for each day in a neat chart. The number of organisms does not have to be a whole number. You must use a for loop to create the table. Okay, now that we've read the instructions, we can begin writing this program. So the first thing I'm going to do is start by printing a little introduction for the user. So I'm going to say print. This program will calculate the growing size of a population. Okay? Then after that, I want to print again telling the user what information they're going to need to enter. So I'm going to print, and then I'm going to do 3 quotes here so that we can split lines. And I want to say you will need to enter the starting number of organisms, the percent increase per day. Then I'm going to go down here and say, and the total number of days. Okay. Now that we've given that little introduction, we can start asking for some information from the user. So I'm going to ask them for the starting number of organisms first. So I'm going to say starting organisms equals float, because it said up here that the number of organisms does not have to be a whole number. So float input, please enter the starting number of organisms. Okay, now the next thing that we want to get is the percent increase per day. So I'm going to call this percent inc, because I want to do a little calculation after to get it into a decimal. So I'm going to say float input, please enter the percent increase. Okay, so now we want to get the actual percent increase, and that's going to be, I'm going to call it percent increase, and then I'm going to say percent inc divided by 100. Because here when they enter the percent increase, like let's say it's 50% increase, then they're going to enter 50. But when we're doing any calculation with this, oops, that should be capitalized. When we're doing any calculation with this, it should be in a decimal. So like to get 50%, we want to multiply by 0.5. Okay, and then the last thing we want from the user is the total days. So I'm going to say total days equals input, please enter the total number of days. Okay, and that's all the input that we need from the user. Now what I want to do is output the headings for our table so that when we go and print the results in a loop, our table heading is already there and won't reprint every time in that loop. Okay, so then I'm going to say print, and I'm going to use an F string to do this. And then I want to say day number here. Then I want to tab over, and I want to say population. And those are going to have our table headings print out nice and neatly. Okay, now I want to create a new variable and call it organisms. And then I'm just going to set this equal to the starting organisms. And the reason I'm doing this is so that in the loop we can keep updating this organisms variable instead of updating the starting organisms, just so the starting organisms remains what it was from the beginning and we don't get any confusion. Okay, now we can start our for loop. So I want to say 4 days in range 1 all the way up to the total days plus 1. And the reason that we need plus 1 here is because we started at 1 over here in our range. So we want to make sure that the range is still the same as if we were going to from 0 to the total days. So now I want to say that our organisms variable plus equals organisms times the percent increase. And that's going to keep updating the total number of organisms each day based on the percent increase per day. Okay, now that's really all that we need, and we can start printing out each value within the table. So I'm going to say print, again, an F string here. Then I want days. Then I'm going to tab this over twice just for neatness. And then I want the organisms to print. And we're going to round the organisms to 2 decimal places, just so that our table is neater. Okay. And now the final thing that we need to do for this program is just make sure that the days within this range, or within this loop, increment by 1. So days plus equals 1. Okay, so that should be it for this program. Everything looks good so far. One thing that I did go back and change was I got rid of the 2 tabs over that we had here, just so that this introduction part here prints neatly. But let's go ahead and run it and make sure that everything looks good, and we can test some input and make sure that that looks good. Okay, so run. Alright, so far here everything looks good. We got the introduction telling the user what they need to enter. So let's say the starting number of organisms is 20. Actually, this can be a decimal, so we'll go with 20.5. The percent increase will go with 45%. And the total number of days will go with 10. Okay, so that looks pretty good here. Our table printed nice and neatly. See how we have the 2 tabs here so that our output over here prints right below where it says population and the day number. Good, everything looks good. Alright, that's it for this program, and that's going to be it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and stay tuned. I'm going to have more Python coding practices and tutorials coming out soon, so if you enjoyed this one, be sure to watch those. Thank you for watching.